Good morning, everybody. It's Christa Madrid, your realtor at Colorado Home Realty. I am here on this beautiful Friday morning with my partner, Brad Lyons from Independent Financial, and also my favorite inspector, Ken Mitchell with H&I Home Inspections. Hey, Ken.
Good morning.
Hey, Brad.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yes, indeed. So, we asked Ken to come on our show to talk to us about some really easy things to address for inspections and to kind of highlight what those things will cost you if you don't take care of them. Very simple things. And then we'll probably pick his brain if there's time in regards to what should you not be doing yourself at home when it comes to home repair. Go ahead, Ken. Talk to us.
So first I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ken Mitchell. I'm the owner of Honor and Integrity Home Inspections, or H&I Home Inspections for short. I think we're actually into just starting our 7th year doing this, and I've been working with Christa for many of those years. So 5 is yeah, crazy. I appreciate both of you inviting me on today. I think the theme originally was just some maintenance items that because people are sheltering in place, or maybe that's going to be loosening up here a little bit pretty quickly. We all hope, knock on wood.
Right.
And I have a few pictures of some things that I find routinely that are pretty easy DIY items that you may not think about regularly. And I guess contact information, you can find me at probably the easiest way is inspectmycoloradohome.com. So www.inspectmycolorado.home. Phone number is 303-875-1175. That's my direct cell phone. We'll be changing over to a new number with, we got so busy last year that I have a call center that will be taking calls for me. So, but yeah, we're making that right in the middle of making that switch right now. So there will be a different number here coming up shortly, but for now you can reach me directly at that number. And quick story. So a lot of these repairs, you know, what I find as a home inspector out there, the majority of times is deferred maintenance items. And those deferred maintenance items may or may not add up to bigger bills later on, but typically they do. When I first started inspecting, probably one of the first 5 inspections I found, I was at a little ranch in North Glen. I think the house was built in the late 50s or early 60s.
Right.
So 2 or 3 bedroom ranch with a basement. It was a rental house and tenants were in there. I think the guy was going through a divorce and actually had to move back into the home. So the tenants weren't very happy about it, but he lived in the basement. So they had built probably not to code, a basement bathroom, and the shower, the hot water valve on the shower was leaking. And so it was leaking actually into the shower, and probably a little bit more than a drip, but not quite a stream, somewhere in between.
Fast drip.
But what ended up happening, and it had to be going on for months, is instead of making this repair, you know, replacing the O-ring or whatever the gasket is in there to repair that handle for that particular model, they ignored it. They shut the door and ignored it. And so because it was in a cold basement over the winter and it was hot water, the water that was dripping came down and went to the drain just fine, but it condensated on the walls. And so it condensated, like I said, it had to be going on for months. So condensation on the walls eventually cooled, dripped down, got down into the floor. And this era of home actually had 9x9 tiles in the basement, so likely asbestos containing from that era. And this water migrated from the wall to a bedroom, probably a 15 to 20 foot radius underneath the tiles.
God.
So just by ignoring this small thing that would have been $1 fix, probably was a $10,000 plus repair, because once you start ripping up those tiles, then you're talking about abatement for asbestos. So yeah. I don't know what happened with it. I turned in my inspection report, but I see things like that. That's the worst I've ever seen for a small repair. But there are a lot of repairs that you can do, especially when we're spending so much time at home, that will help preserve the value of your home.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the ones that I wanted to point out to everybody are things that I see every day. They're not necessarily super action recommended items. They may fall more under just general maintenance items, but yeah, it's things that I see every day that you probably just don't point out, or you just don't notice, and I'd like to point out too. So,
Well, let us see. What do we got going on? Are you going to share your screen?
All right. Yeah.
There we go.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Got pictures? Yes. Okay. All right. So these are just a couple of examples I'm gonna run through, and I'll. So this is a new build in Firestone that I did early last year, or maybe it was the first part of this year actually. So what we're talking about in the next couple of things is this vertical trim, and I think we actually found some of this on your house, Christa.
Yes, we did.
Happens with new builds, right. But so vertical trim here, vertical trim here, vertical trim here. What happens, and it's been going on for decades, is the painting contractor will go through and they'll get assigned their painting, and these are engineered wood products. So a type of compressed wood with resin or something in there. Mm-hmm. And the manufacturer's instructions on these, installation instructions, require that all sides be painted or otherwise sealed. And what happens is they don't do the bottoms, even in new builds. Oh, I know. And so what happens is eventually, with moisture, or if it's close enough to the ground with snow, is these areas will wick moisture from the bottom. Swell. And swell. That's exactly right. And as far as it being, it's more of a cosmetic issue, but it's a real quick fix just to paint the bottom of that, to seal that. And it's virtually every single house I inspect. New builds never do it. The painters know nobody's going to look down there, so they don't bother doing it. And but even when I go through 10 houses that are 10 years old or 20 years old, it's the same thing. But eventually that's going to swell, and I have a few examples of that coming up. So this is actually the front porch area, same material that they used for the guardrail, but again, they didn't paint the bottom of this here either. So here's exposed. This looks like dimensional lumbers, the slats in between there. So for the balusters, so that probably isn't going to suffer as much as the other things do. But just something I noticed here, another common area. But here we get to the trim. So you can see where the paint ends here, and it's exposed here. Run into this all the time. And an area like this. So typically if you're on the south side or the east side or maybe the southwest side, not going to be that big a deal for snow because it's going to melt fairly quickly. If you're on the north side though, and you never get any sun exposure, even just wind-driven rain or rain in this coming down here and just wicking, you don't have to have snow here for that to affect that. And it'll only take a year or two left unprotected for that to begin swelling. And like I said, it's more of a cosmetic issue, but it certainly is something that homeowners can do themselves to preserve the value of their home.
And it's not a big project.
Yeah. And here's an example of a different house several years later where you can see that swelling has already taken place. This is actually above a roof line. Mm-hmm. So very common and a very easy fix. Another issue that I run into in virtually every home, not necessarily new builds, is the dryer lint flapper or damper, whatever you want to call it. Common to find these with dryer lint that, excessive buildup here that's lodging that open. It's not functioning the way it should be, and closing back after the dryer turns off. So this is a great entry point for mice and insects and all of those fun critters. So real quick and easy, just clear out that lint, and that thing's probably going to work exactly like it was intended to when it was first installed.
Now, this is one of the reasons why most people's laundry rooms are so cold also.
Yeah, very well could be. Very well could be. Because if you have that propped open, then obviously you may have cold air coming back through there. So
interesting. Okay.
That's the outside view. Another areas of easy fixes where, again, mice or insects, potential water intrusion in these areas, are any penetrations that you have through the exterior walls. So for this example, this is the irrigation line coming through, and this screwdriver is probably 7 inches long. So you can see that. A little bit of silicone here, or possibly some expanding foam, the stuff that you get in the can, remedy that. Other areas are air conditioner lines that are going through. Sometimes you'll have low voltage cable lines or things like that. So, but you can see, how I could stick that right in there. Any type of insect, wasps, get in there and start to build nests. So here's something similar to the, you guys have any questions?
No, these are easy things for people.
Yeah, these are easy things. So this is similar to the dryer. These are actually fresh combustion air vents that typically will lead to your mechanical room where your water heater and your furnace are. So those combustion appliances require makeup air, essentially, or fresh combustion air. And usually you have a high and a low depending on what year it was built and what type of equipment you actually have. So, but you can see over the years how built up this has gotten with debris. There's not a lot of fresh air getting in through there. So you can go around the home and you look for similar vent covers like the dryer vent, and usually they have a critter guard or a screen on here. But again, the lint, because there's air pulling in. It's not mechanically pulling in, but you do tend to get built up there as well, and this could be cottonwood or dryer lint or all types of dust and debris. And a little brush and give that a quick scrape, and you're going to make your combustion appliances safer as well as more efficient.
Awesome.
Nice.
Another one that I run into all the time, especially in the spring, are gutters. And as you guys know, the #1 enemy for your home is water. And so the best thing that you can do to keep water away from the home is really to have the gutter and downspout system functioning as they can. Of course, you always want to pay attention to grading around the home as well. But when you run into conditions like this, likely the downspout is completely clogged, so any type of rain might be running over the top of this gutter. When you don't keep the gutters clear, then that debris tends to work down into the downspouts as well. And so this is common maintenance item yearly, or maybe even more frequently for homeowners that have mature trees, or maybe the neighbors have mature trees and they make their way onto the roof. But super important. And if you're not comfortable on a ladder, there are certainly handyman and plenty of people that can do things like this. So I included this picture of the home just to show you some of the common areas for the vertical trim as we move back to that. And so those areas, usually on newer homes, you have a little bit more foundation wall exposed and they're easier to get to.
So with the leaves in the gutter, those leaves are like a sponge and they actually hold moisture. And I've seen situations where they just corrode the gutters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, that moisture tends to go upwards as it's evaporating, and it definitely swells and rots the eaves of the home as well.
Yes.
And those
Yeah.
are things, right, Brad, that can affect the loan if it's an FHA or VA loan, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And even some cases, a conventional loan, if it leads to a health or safety item, then it could definitely get involved there too. And even with if you've got the clogged gutters and you've got the overspill, if you've got a big downpour, that can get down into the swale next to the house and then go down, and you've got stuff going into your foundation and you have flooding problems. And
Mhm.
so I mean, it could, not only can it affect the integrity of the house up top where the water's been sitting and soaking in, but then it can also start spilling over and
Mhm.
causing major problems down below.
Right. And if we see those major problems, um, that's where we as agents have to coach our buyers, um, that this could potentially um, affect the loan. And we have to inform the sellers too. You know, sometimes we run into a seller who's stubborn and they don't want to make these repairs. Well, then we've got to prepare them that there's a possibility this could terminate.
That's a marketability
Go
issue.
back
Yeah.
on the market, and I'm going
Yeah.
to have to disclose that. Right?
Yeah, it's smart. I mean, it saves you, it's a little bit of a headache, but it saves heartache in the long run when you can't get that deal closed, when you went through all these motions and you have that thing come up that's not fixed, that has to be
Right.
mitigated. Because if an underwriter sees that within the appraisal report that's developed, and maybe the appraiser listed the property value as subject to whatever that mitigation needs to be, then that's going to have to be rectified before you can get a final approval on the loan.
Well, and even if it is rectified, chances are if you're going back on the market, you're going to have to go back on the market at a lower price. So the price can be
Yep.
compromised as well. So things like this are free or low cost to take care of, as Ken has mentioned, but they can cost you a lot of money in the long run, potentially at the resale of your home or the refinance of your home if you're looking to refinance in today's times. Guys, I am happy to come out to your home and look it over. Ken has trained me very well. I'm no inspector by any means, and I'm not trying to say I am, but I can give an eyeball look and walk through your house with buyer eyes and tell you what I would point out to a buyer if your home were on the market. And that's a free service I offer. That's part of the consulting that I do for you. If you want a full inspection, which your house doesn't have to be on the market to get an inspection, call Ken, give him a buzz, and have him come and look over your house. Make sure your appliances, you take your car in for service, why not get your home serviced? Give him a call and have him come and look over your home and give you tips on how to be a good homeowner. This isn't about marketability. This is the closest thing you're going to get to an owner's manual, even on a new build. And it's the best way to keep the value of your home up to par and protect the integrity of your home, and to show home ownership pride as well.
Hey, Christa, if I would add that, so if you're considering listing your home, check with your agent first. If a pre-listing inspection is in her his or her strategy,
Sure.
because depending on the market, as you know, having that pre-listing inspection may or may not be a viable option depending on the age of the home. And
Sure.
but if you're wanting, if I run into, and it's always great to find these type of sellers, pride of ownership sellers, that they just want to do the right thing and get their house fixed. They want as little trouble as possible. These are people that typically don't have a lot of deferred maintenance. And like I said, they have pride of ownership going into that, listing that home. And so I do pre-listing inspections in our hot market, as it has been for so many years, not that often, but you'll run into that. But I'm happy to do that. And even with contracts that are being written when the market's so hot with just safety items, typically
Sure.
a lot of the time. Well, I have a lot of buyers that will thank because now they have a punch list of things that they can work on as they move through that process. So
Yeah.
I do regular home inspections for buyers, listing inspections, 11-month warranty inspections for new builds, so you can get those last minute items to get your builder to hopefully take care of. But yeah, we do pre-listing inspections for sure, but make sure you check with your agent to see if that is in their strategy, so you're not spending money that you don't necessarily have to.
Agreed. And those health and safety issues are definitely the first and foremost when you're preparing to go on the market. And one thing I remind sellers is, at one point or another, you purchased a home. Wouldn't you have wanted all of this done for you? And if you didn't have it done, I don't know if it's if they were properly educated by their agent all those years ago, but it's my job to properly educate them now so they can make a good decision moving forward. So awesome. Well, Ken, truly, truly grateful for the information that you provided today. And I love how that ties into what I do. It ties into what Brad does, and it just ties into everyday good ownership.
Sure. I just add that I also do radon testing and sewer inspections as well. So kind of the whole package. We'll be adding environmental testing, like mold testing, coming up this year. So if you want to give me a call, I'm happy to meet all your inspection needs. I appreciate you inviting me on. Just a couple of things that we touched on for easy maintenance items. Of course, there's so many more, and I would be honored to come back anytime.
Awesome. We'll definitely have to have you back another time. We knew 15 minutes isn't enough to cover this, just like we knew last week it wasn't enough to cover all our insurance needs with Tim, right? But this is enough information just to get the everyday homeowner and renter, potentially the renter, thinking about their future and their home that they're living in, or the home that they plan on living in moving forward. So we usually like to end our Fridays with a passage from just to take you into the weekend. And I will also be posting the virtual tours as well to look forward to this weekend, since we're still not doing open houses. I forgot to post those last week and nobody called me on it. So before I present our scripture for the week, Brad, do you have anything else to add?
I just want people to make sure, again, with all of the information that's out there with regards to forbearance and deferred payments on anything that they might be doing, be it rent, be it mortgage, be it a credit card, there's going to be repercussions from that. So please make sure you understand where it's going to leave you, whether you're doing something now that you have to do, but plan for those things to come back to you. So please have a conversation with a professional about that. That's the only thing. Before getting too deep into that, that's what I just want to leave you with.
Agreed. So, quote for the week: because you are my help, I sing in the shadow of your wings. Psalms 63:7. So go into the weekend knowing that we are here to help, all three of us. And if you need resources outside of us, we certainly can point you in the right direction. Thank you for joining us. And just a teaser for next week, we have George Romero from First Integrity Title joining us next week to tell us why we need title insurance and what in the world is this title insurance. And when you receive your title policy in the mail after closing, what is all that? So we're going to pick George's brain and get ready. Get your questions ready and let Brad and I know what those are if you need, and we'll have Ken's information posted in the notes as well.
Awesome. Mr. Brad, thanks a lot. Have a good weekend.